We are recording, and...
Oh yeah, we're not live today.
No, we're live.
Oh, we are live.
We're live right now.
We are live.
Are we live on, like, Facebook?
On Facebook.
Oh,
hi,
hi.
Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
So we've got an awkward situation here at the podcast.
Cool. How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
I am
It's okay.
co-host
Co-host.
Dr. Alain Dr.
Where have you been?
And you'll notice the way that I'm sitting here as mediator between these two fine gentlemen. We've got my current co-host, Dr. Chris Chatziglu.
Dr. Chris Chatziglu.
And we've got his former co-host, Dr. Sukhi Muker.
Why haven't you called?
After things fell apart, I just couldn't find it in myself to pick up my phone.
You could just call and just, like, some closure, you know?
Closure would be nice, actually. Is that the purpose of today's show? Closure?
He asked you to be here.
Actually, you're the one that texted me.
That's true. Well, so I said to you last summer, you were training for the Ironman triathlon, some small race.
Yeah, small race.
And you're like, I need more time to train. I said, okay, we'll put the podcast on hold till you get back. And then that was the last I heard of you.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, how'd it go? Did you win?
Yeah, I won.
Great.
I crossed the finish line.
Good.
Cool.
That's winning.
It is.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the internet.
It's good to be back to the podcast world of Vancouver.
What have you been up to? You've been, like, doing some traveling and going to places. What's going on with you?
Going places, let's see, we're just in Italy in the fall at a seminar there, and I got an office there, so doing some stuff there and brought the family along, so we hung out there. Awesome time in San Remo, Italy. That's where you want to spend a month.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the jam.
It's about 20 minutes from Monaco, 40 minutes from Nice.
Do they do races there too?
Giro d'Italia goes through there.
Oh, nice. I like how you did that with the accent.
You like that?
Well, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Sukhi is a chiropractor. He's an author. He is a triathlete. He is, I don't know, what else do you do?
Husband, parent.
Husband and parent, yeah. And he is an aspiring guitar player as well. He's been threatening to buy a guitar for months.
Threatening to buy a guitar. Haven't done it yet. I had a kid instead.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to have you on the show because obviously, you and I have spoken many times before in our old podcast, but we wanted to have you on.
And what was that old podcast, by the way?
Two docs talking about stuff.
Now we're three docs talking about stuff.
Three docs.
We're gonna rename Everyday Revolutions to Three Docs.
But you always have like a very holistic take on things. It doesn't even really matter what we're talking about, whether it's like, whether we're actually talking about holistic health or we're talking about bike racing. You always have like interesting takes on things. So I thought maybe we'd have you on, and plus, we're all friends too, so why not?
Cool.
Yeah. So tell me about the clinics in Italy so far. What is you're expanding?
Yeah.
You're expanding and you're branching out and trying to get chiropractic to different parts of the world that are underserviced.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, in the last couple of years, what I learned was that the plight of the chiropractic student and what they were going through and the challenges they had stepping into practice. So, I went on a couple humanitarian trips, mission trips. It's where chiropractors go to third world countries. They go and adjust a bunch of people. I just got a chance to connect with these, I'll call them kids, but they're not kids, millennials, hanging out with them. And I loved hanging out with them and connected with where they were in their cause and saw that I could be of service. And when you're in the coaching consulting world, these people need services to take their life, their practice to a whole new level, but they're also hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and can't really afford my services.
Yeah.
So we came up with a cool, innovative model that we experimented with in the past year. And so now I work with several chiropractors, several offices in the States, in Europe as well. And it's cool because it's about investing in people. I believe who you are as a human being precedes whatever you're doing. In this case, it happens to be a chiropractor. And we work in a model where if they're successful, I get rewarded. And if they're not successful, I do not get rewarded.
So you're helping these kids out in like the most vulnerable time in their career, their first year in practice, basically.
Yeah.
Showing them the ropes.
Showing them the ropes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone showing me the ropes when I was.
No, it was like School of Hard Knocks,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I came out of school and I just opened the clinic and just really didn't even think about what I was going to do next.
Yeah.
Just kind of hope and prayed that my education was enough, and
Right.
at least it was for a while.
We had each other.
We had each other.
You guys
yeah.
had each
But
other.
eventually, you want to seek out maybe some help from a mentor, and that's good.
And it is a true mentorship relationship in that a true mentor-mentee relationship is you have a drive and intent where the mentee surpasses the mentor. I want to be able to, eventually learn and grow with these people in this dynamic called life, and a part of that happens to be in chiropractic.
Well, it's like the old kung fu movies where
Yeah.
the student becomes the teacher.
The teacher.
That's
That's
right.
very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Now, eventually, you graduated school.
Eventually.
Took you many, many, many years to graduate. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and I want to know how you went from. I happen to know you a little bit, but you had a bit of a shady past. I mean, let's call it what it is. You were a bad kid growing up.
I was a bad kid.
So I want to know how you went from the bad kid
Yeah,
in East Vancouver
yeah.
to the guy opening up the clinics and doing mission trips in underserviced parts of the world. That's a
Okay.
lot of range. So let's start at the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning. Originally, I was born in Britain, moved here, Eastman, family, immigrants, and I really thought my parents were kind of clueless when it came to this whole thing called Canada.
It's okay, they're not listening.
Yeah,
You
they're
don't have
not. They have no idea what a freaking podcast is. The rest of my brown brothers out there who might have heard this story. But, I have a theory, and there's no science to this theory, but I believe we as human beings were either parented or parented. And that essentially means that if you have a connection with your parents, you give them the opportunity to guide you and raise you and guide you through life. Whereas if that's not the case, you learn through observation by your peers. And when you're in that environment, and you see like, oh, the kids that are tough, kids that are cool, kids that are into bad stuff, the boys, if you will, they, people respect them. They look like they're pretty happy. And when your life sucks, even though you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, you just kind of I developed this warped idea that was cool, and I kind of moved in that direction. Got myself in a whole heap of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually to a place where the idea of being here was less appealing than leaving. So, getting to that place is a fascinating place, and eventually, I turned my life around. I knew in the moment that I tried to take my life and I was unsuccessful that I wanted to stay here. I didn't know what it looked like, but I also knew that I just wanted to be somebody in this world that made a difference. I didn't know what that looked like. Didn't know this thing, chiropractic. Had no idea what that was. So I just started reading. I walked into a library, and actually the first book I ever read was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden I delved into this whole thing about mindset, and that was my foundation. And thinking holistically, thinking vitalistically, the whole's greater than some of its parts, and going through school with that whole thing. Eventually I got my shit together. Was I to swear?
I don't know.
Are we?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck it.
So I dropped out when I was 14, grade 9. So I did grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 in essentially all the sciences and the English in 4 years I did 4 years in 1 year of night school. Got enough credits, got myself into college, and I studied exercise science, exercise physiology, and then eventually went to Chiropractic College.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was in Toronto.
I went to the most medical chiropractic college on the planet, Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College.
Mm-hmm. Canadian Memorial, yeah.
Canadian Memorial.
I've never been there, but I hear good things.
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to CMCC brothers out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of good chiropractors come out of
Tons of
that
great
school, too.
chiropractors come out of there. It's actually kind of ironic.
Well,
Because you got a great medical education.
I don't know. I think there's all the schools tend to go that way now.
Yeah.
Even when I was in school,
Yeah.
they have to teach to the accreditation, and they have to teach to board examinations and licensing. So I don't know. I think you learn as much as you can, and then when you get into practice, you can choose to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And how'd you get into like marathons and ultra marathons and triathlons?
Great question. So I grew up playing hockey. My father from India, his brothers, they all played field hockey. Actually played, national level, India, Olympics, all that good sort of stuff. And so he saw kids in Canada, they play ice hockey. So put me in hockey at a really young age. It was probably a good thing because I was an aggressive, tough kid. Burn off some steam there. Played junior hockey, played college hockey, and then when I graduated from school, came back home, I played men's hockey, and I remember putting the puck in the net, and after the whistle getting cross-checked and getting 7 stitches right there. And then the next day being in the office, and this little boy I was adjusting was looking at me saying, "Who beat me up?" with my nice black eye. And I realized, the way I want to live my life and this whole hockey thing doesn't seem to be jiving. So I quit hockey after that. I played for about 10 weeks in a men's league here. And a week later I said, screw it, I'm going to run a marathon. Longest I'd run at that point was 10 kilometers. Hadn't run longer than that. Decided to do that. Signed up for my first marathon. Ran a 3:47 marathon. First marathon.
Is that good? For a first one,
I don't know.
Not bad.
I don't know. I'm a sub 3 hour marathoner.
Right now,
to put in perspective. Yeah. So it was, I crossed the finish line. It was nothing outstanding. I wasn't like top of my age group or anything like that. And I got into running, fell in love with it, ran dozens of marathons, half marathons. Then I got into ultras. Ultras were anything longer than 26.2 miles, 42.2 kilometers. And 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 50 milers, 100-mile races. And then actually something funny happened. I did a 100-mile race, which I finished 4th overall, second in my age group. And I qualified to Western States, which is kind of like the holy grail at the time of 100-milers. The challenge was that race had a fire that year, and because it had a fire, the race was postponed. And then everyone who was in that race got pushed forward to the following year. So I'd essentially have to wait a year and a half, almost a year and 2/3 before doing that race, because that race was already full with the previous people's years. So then I made a decision. I always dreamed of doing Ironman, a race I watched when I was like 16 years old. And I thought, man, I can keep this running thing up, or maybe I can switch to Ironman and then do this whole, Western States thing another time. But there's only one problem. I couldn't swim. So a week after
swimming pools in East Van growing up.
Yeah, apparently not. A week after my 100-mile race. Okay, so you imagine that 100-mile fitness. Al was at the race.
Yeah, I was in the crew.
Yeah, he was part of my crew with my wife, Kate. Like 21-ish hours. I got in the pool a week later. See, pretty fit guy. I tried to swim 25 meters. The lifeguard had to jump in because I almost drowned. So that's how good I could swim. I'm like, okay, this whole swimming thing, apparently it's a little more technique than I thought.
It's not
less effort.
Not just floating there.
Yeah, it's not
kicking.
just floating there. So, and it was weird because when I jumped in the pool, and that was my whole thing, you'd think after doing that I'd be like, well, there's no way I can do this Ironman thing. But something within me always knew that, man, it's like your greatest challenges provide the greatest opportunity for growth. And it was at that moment I actually decided I was going to do Ironman the next year.
So much of like Ironman and these endurance races, so much of it is just mental, right? I mean, you can train to a certain level, but really what separates the top 10 finishers from the rest of the pack is often just that mental game that you have to play during and before the racing.
And the mental game, Chris, I'd say it's exercised every single day. In a sport like triathlon, you have 3 activities. In an average training week for several years of my life being an Ironman athlete, I had anywhere from 12 to 18 workouts a week. Some lasted 20 minutes, some lasted 6 hours. So it's like, it's this mental dance of like, and I mean, I'm not a pro, like, you know, I have a career, a wife, a kid, you know, and like balancing, you know, sometimes I get up at 3 a.m. to get in a 3-4 hour workout so I can be with my family on a Saturday. So you start flexing these mental muscles, but then it's less about your fitness and who you show up there as from a biological level, more about the person that you've become as a result of the journey. And then when you hit the start line, it's that person that takes you to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's less sort of mindset. It's more about physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, who you've become. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Something I've always been fascinated with, and actually something I wanted to ask you, because I know that you do a lot of consulting and mentoring outside of just athletics, as well as you do coaching in athletics as well.
Right.
Is, you know, we get very inspired and motivated by people who are, you know, we look at videos online and people doing just amazing things athletically.
Yeah.
And yet there seems to be a divide between how, like, doing that in terms of with our body and making the jump to how do we apply those same strategies to our everyday life. Like it seems, and I know, and I can only speak for myself, but I know, let's say when I go to the gym, I go to the CrossFit gym and we do like a really hard workout, and I know that it's going to be, you know, it may be, you know, 40 minutes that I'm going to get done, like
40 minutes of hell.
40 minutes of hell, yeah. So by minute 3, like I just want to stop.
Right.
But, you know, so we can understand a little bit more, I think, as we see it throughout our culture, that, okay, like just the, kind of that perseverance when it comes to our bodies, but when it comes to our everyday life, like how do you translate that same kind of that mental state, that flow state that we get into out of athletics and into, let's say, business or relationships or things like that?
So is the question how to get into that same flow state outside of the athletic arena?
Yeah, exactly. And how do you coach that?
How do you coach that? So I mean, I think the first thing is really, you know, what can motivate somebody to do 12 to 18 workouts a week is knowing that you have this crazy race in, you know, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months. So it's like, I got to show up there. That race is going to come, that start line. It's what I do now that prepares me for that. So I think it's important to have a North Star in life. There's got to be a why. And that can be as simply as, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to improve my body composition from the athletic arena. Now, if you think about life, it could be, if I do X, Y, and Z, guess what? I'm a better husband, or I'm a better father, or I'm a better entrepreneur. So I think it's very important to have a North Star, because a North Star is what we're moving towards. Yet it's what we do day in and day out, and I have this thing called becoming a master of the mundane. When we become masters of the mundane, it moves us to the North Star. We don't magically get there.
So give us an example of that. Like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Okay. So let's say you have an online business. I was working with this internet guy. You have an online business, and a big part of the online business is developing marketing strategies and things like that to get people into your funnel, so eventually you can sell them X, Y, or Z. Yeah. Well, this guy actually hated setting up Facebook ads, and we'd have conversations about this. I know nothing about Facebook ads, but I know he had to do it, and I was helping him get around this. It's like, well, in the end, what do you want to do? And then it was helping connect him becoming a master of the mundane, setting up Facebook ads, because that was going to help him achieve his outcome. So not saying like, shit, today I'm doing Facebook ads. Right. And I hate that. It's like, no, today I'm bringing people and exposing people into my business. It happens to be doing Facebook ads. So it's like becoming masters of the mundane.
Just like finding a purpose, creating a reason why.
The reason why, connecting to that North Star. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you don't have that North Star, it's like you said, if you're in a 40-minute CrossFit workout, if 3 minutes in you're dying, a part of you might think, you know what? It's easy if I just go have a you know, I'm just going to sit on the bench. I don't want to do this. But if you're like, no, hey, I've got a wedding in 6 months, or I'm going on a vacation and I want to have a six-pack, all of a sudden it's a little easier to get through that 40-minute workout, because that's your North Star, that's your reason, that's your why.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting. I'm reading a book now. Actually, just finished it. It's called The Intention Experiment, and it's really fascinating because she deciphers between an idea, Lynn McTaggart, and an intention. Idea is sort of like this dream. Hey, like, I want to make $1 million. That's cool. That's not an intention. A lot of people will be like, yeah, my intention is to make $1 million. And I've always had an issue with that because there's no plan in place. Something moves from being an idea to an intention when we have a proposed action plan that will increase the probability of that idea happening. That's what an intention is. So it's actually thinking about your North Star, I want $1 million, and then bringing it down to the action steps that are actually going to make you do that. Mm-hmm. So, when people talk about, oh yeah, those people, they meditate and they think about those things, it goes, well, it depends, because I do meditate and I think about those things, but I spend 5% of the time thinking about the North Star, 95% of the time thinking about what I need to do to arrive there and become that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've talked about this before, but there was the idea, what was it, the 90s, The Secret? When did The Secret come out?
Wasn't that like the 60s?
I don't even know. Seems like it was the 90s, so long ago, but
we were younger.
It talks a lot about intention.
Yeah, intention.
And people often misrepresent that as wishing, right? And
exactly.
There's a big difference between wishing and having a goal with intention, and having a process and a plan to achieve it, right?
Right.
So you're not going to use the example of $1 million. You're not going to just think your way to $1 million. You're going to think about having $1 million, get what it feels like, and have an action plan and something that you can follow in order to get there. And sometimes you get help from other people as to what direction to take.
Yeah.
And it's an intention with a plan.
Yeah.
Versus a wish.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think more people kind of need some of that in life too, because there's a quick fix type of mentality whether it relates to healthcare or finances or anything, CrossFit goals, whatever it is.
Everything's a process.
Everything's
a journey. Everything in life.
They want to be there, but they don't want to do the work to get there.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's lost. There's this idea that you can be famous on YouTube if you just kind of hit this one viral video, and all of a sudden that'll launch your career, and then you're Justin Bieber, right? But
by the way, there's no formula to do that.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, there is a formula for Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
who when he was 8 years old was sitting there busking in the streets of Toronto or wherever he was, and nobody saw it. Okay, so maybe he put 6 years of hard work, but relatively speaking, he's very young, but he worked really, really hard at developing a craft, becoming skillful at playing drums and playing music. And why are we talking about Justin Bieber? Anyway, the point is,
Pete brought him up. Do you like him?
I like the work. The work
a Justin
ethic.
Bieber cover for your phone?
Yeah,
it is too.
I like the work ethic, and I like the related to this conversation that everybody sees the end result, but they don't see often the hard work that went into the end result.
I always say masters and champions are created when no one else is watching.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I find really interesting now is the idea of, I don't even know if there's a term. I'm sure someone's come up with a term with it. But the fact that, let's say that we're sitting here right now, we're broadcasting live to whoever's watching, and we're trying our best. And what we do, we have authentic conversations, and we do our best to show kind of behind the scenes as to what we do. And we teach in our offices. We're all the same. That we teach what we do. We're not just teaching something that we go out and do the opposite, right? We don't vilify smoking and then go. Smoke.
You're not on crack cocaine?
No, you don't smoke cigarettes?
Not on weekends. Only.
You're not vaping, bro?
No, vaping. But there seems to be this. Let's say when it comes guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's online all the time.
Right.
There seems to be this level of authenticity that is just really coming to the surface. If you want to be a leader, if you want to be an influencer, you've got to be able to open yourself up to this level of authenticity that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
And we're seeing even in the the presidential elections, we're seeing with someone like Hillary Clinton, who did a lot of really terrible shit. That's coming back to hurt her now. Whereas 10 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the thing. There wasn't a lot of we could hide our junk.
Yeah.
Junk
Right?
in the trunk.
Junk in the trunk.
Those are different things.
But I think with that as well, there's like a whole other level of responsibility that we're not necessarily even ready for.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, like we see like our technology has advanced so fast that it's like our culture is still trying to figure out, like trying to catch up. So we've got these people, like you were saying, like they can just go on Instagram and post a photo of their ass and think that they're going to get Kim Kardashian famous.
Right.
Which happens.
Unfortunately does happen.
It does happen. But yeah.
I think in the future people won't be able to hide their authenticity too much. I mean, we're losing privacy, and I don't know, maybe it's not such a bad thing. I don't know. It depends on your opinion on that, but people at the very least are going to see what you're really made of. If you choose to participate in social media. And that's the other thing, all that is voluntary.
Yes.
Writing a book about your past is voluntary and very exposing. And also, like you're definitely opening the kimono when you talk about your past, but the purpose is to inspire people and give hope. Writing is hard. It's very hard.
Writing is hard.
It's probably the hardest thing.
Especially when you're not a writer.
Yeah.
I've written a book, but I am not a writer.
Right. Well, you don't give yourself enough credit because many people don't write a book.
Right.
And call themselves writers, but don't end up writing the book. So,
right.
So walk me through this. What would possibly compel a chiropractor in West Vancouver who's busy with practice, training for triathlons, to write a book? Why would you want to possibly do that?
Why would I want to do that? Okay. 2 weeks ago, I learned something that I didn't know. And what I learned was that, because this sums it up, I was raised in the poorest postal code in Canada. I didn't know that. I knew it was, tough environment, but like I don't know what the rest of Canada's like, but I learned that. It is the poorest postal code in Canada. Today, I had an idea, but now I know this. I live in the wealthiest, most affluent postal code in Canada. So I've essentially been on two sides of a spectrum in a country, although those places are only like 25, 30 minutes apart, but very different. So for me, it was about, I really felt that, sure, I'm a healthcare practitioner, I'm working with the art of the adjustment, working with people's biology and nervous system, but there was more to it. And I wanted to introduce the ideas of personal growth and development that are so near and dear to my heart. I'm a personal growth development junkie. I love it. Been in my life for 23 years, will be in my life for my entire life. So I said, man, there's people that are way better off than I was that are struggling. So shit, if I can do it, they can do it too.
Right.
That was the motivation for the book.
I think sometimes too, when we get to working with patients who are sick, there are obviously other social issues that come with that, and you try and mentor and guide people as best you can, but ultimately at the end of the day, you only have a few minutes as a chiropractor each visit with this person. So, so having some type of continuing education for your patients is always good.
Yeah.
The good news is you don't have to be a patient to read that book.
Yeah.
And I've read it. I liked it. I gave it a solid 9.5 out of 10 on Amazon.
Really? Thank you.
Actually, I think Amazon's out of 5. I didn't rate it on Amazon. Maybe we should.
We should do that right now.
Yeah. It's but I did enjoy it. Beyond body, beyond mind. Very good. Yeah. But I know writing's hard. Having written myself, not a book, but doing freelance health writing for newspapers. Like, it's hard to get words onto paper and then have them sound good
and
to other people.
Have some like coherent direction where you're actually guiding people, and it's not just a bunch of gibberish.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So no, and that's very good. And if you haven't read it, I'd encourage people to do that. Tell me, so we have Italy.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about the other ones right now?
Other offices, sure.
Yeah, so Arizona. Where else are we opening offices?
We have Nashville,
Nashville, music scene.
Multiple Arizona, and then actually in the process of potentially Colorado.
All right,
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And so now, when you are branching into the U.S., what is different about doing practice in the U.S. versus practice in Italy? And is there a difference between the students? Is there a difference between the clients?
Yeah.
What's the difference between opening the two places? And also, what are the similarities that you see?
Well, definitely Europe has its own nuances, and I won't even say Europe. I'd say Italy has its own nuances. Things are just done differently.
Right.
In terms of that. The cool thing that I will say about Europe is that the word chiropractic is not bastardized there. And people don't know what it is yet. Whereas I find here in North America, people have a preconceived idea of what a chiropractor is. So the people I guide and mentor, I actually get them to talk more about what it is they do, and then actually feed at the very end, once you've given a chance to educate them, that you're a chiropractor. Otherwise, if you say, hey, it's like, I'm Sukhi, I'm a chiropractor, and if you've seen a chiropractor, I'm actually allowing some other guy that I don't even know make you think what I do based on what he has shared with you or your experience with that.
Right.
Versus me being in a position where I can actually share what I do. Oh, and by the way, I happen to be a chiropractor.
Right.
I'm big on value-based communication, connecting with people's values and educating from that standpoint. I'm not big on scripts. I'm big on talking points. So the difference is that in the end, when it comes down to, I believe that who you are as a human being completely precedes who you are as a healthcare practitioner. I spend 90% of my time working on people and people's stuff and their baggage and their issues so they can be authentic and vulnerable and fully show up. 10% on systems and processes. Anyone can plug in systems and processes. If you're not in that place of power within yourself, it's not going to work. And I believe authenticity and vulnerability is big. That's why I'm big on talking points. You know, this is what we're going to do, but you saying it how it's unique to you versus trying to be somebody else. So that uneducation, re-education is more work in North America, whereas in Europe, it's a lot less work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you a couple things, a little bit, moving on from that a little bit. What do you think, you've mentored chiropractors, you mentored regular people. Chiropractors are regular people.
Yeah, but like entrepreneurs or athletes, that sort of thing.
So let's talk about, like, somebody has a goal and a vision for their life that is different than what they're doing right now. Maybe they're on a job that they don't like. Maybe they are trying to start a business. What are, like, the 2 or 3 things that you find that often hold people back, and how can people get past that? What can people start doing? Practical things that can get people to start moving in the right direction if they feel like they're stuck.
Well, the number one thing that holds everyone back, Chris, is fear. The source of that fear is always different. Usually it's something that's happened to us in the past, and as a result of that, we are now taking that past experience or event and actually portraying and foreshadowing it as a potential outcome if they embark on this endeavor. So for me, it's a big part is, looking at those past things. It's all in the post-Newtonian world. It all comes down to physics and particles and energy and your frequency. Once you process and integrate those fears of the past, fear never goes away. Here's the important thing. A lot of people think, oh yeah, we're going to make fear go away. Fear never goes away. Fear is always in the equation. In fact, if it's not in the equation, there's a problem. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, you don't ever want to...
you don't want fear to go away.
Not be afraid of heights, because then you might do some crazy things.
Exactly.
Right. There's good fear.
Yeah.
But you only manage it, right?
Exactly. So it's about how do we manage the fear. So it's like, how do you look at fear, put it on the bookshelf, and trudge forward, knowing, like, to me, there's no guarantees in life. Never. Of anything. Life is a series of probabilities. So how do we increase the probability of this idea and intention being a reality versus letting the fear handcuff us and hold us back?
Yeah.
I remember a story. Well, I guess one of our teachers, Dr. Patrick Gentempo, it's a very, very simple idea, but they were doing a high ropes course.
Yeah.
So having somebody climb up a kind of like this big, it looked like a big telephone pole, and this woman got up there, and she got on like the first rung, so she's literally like 2 feet off the ground.
Oh wow!
And she like clung onto the pole. She's like, I can't go any higher. She had this like massive fear of heights.
Right.
And so he talked to her for a little bit, and essentially got to the simple communication of, well, can you be scared? Can you just be as scared as you are, and take just one more step? And she's like, yeah, okay, I can do that.
Exactly.
And essentially, I mean, it took an hour or so, or whatever. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but a long
grabbed
time.
The coffee and came back, and she was still on the 4th step.
Yeah, exactly. But it was that whole process of, can you just hold on to your fear still, but just take one more step.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're saying that we don't. Yeah, there's this weird idea in in a lot of the the personal development world. Yeah, that we have to let go of fear. But I think part of that is just actually using that as a catalyst.
Yeah.
And I think it also comes back to what you were saying about our North Star, right? And I think let's say, how would you coach someone, or like how would we get to say that when I think about like my North Star, someone's North Star might be, and I know it's been for me at some point, like I just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
Right. So then you get to that point, you're like, well, maybe it's not all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
And so like, how do we transcend to those other levels, those kind of higher levels of making our North Star bigger and bigger and bigger?
Right.
Because I think, just saying I love my wife and I want to do good by my wife, and I want my family to have a great life, that may not be compelling enough to say I'm going to write a book. Right. Because there's a lot of easier things you can do to make that happen than write a book. Right.
Yeah. So the question is,
how do we transcend making our North Star potentially something small,
right,
and expanding that continuously, right? So pushing those boundaries of fear and potentially using fear to expand the boundaries of our experience.
Yeah. So the first thing I say, they've done studies on this, and what we've actually learned is that, at least in Western culture, we have pushed happiness to the other side of our goal. So it's sort of like, okay, I've set this goal, I'm gonna show up for this 5-kilometer race, and I'm so excited. I hit the start line, I hit the finish line, and once I finish it, then I experience happiness. And in our society, you might experience that for an hour, a day, max a week. And then the next thing you're gonna do is set sort of a new goal and a new North Star moving forward. So my invitation for people is to move happiness in front of the goal, and move happiness to the end of every single day that moves them one step closer to that goal. So every single night, moving to a place of gratitude. Every night I go to bed and I think about everything that I experienced, and I bring it from my head to my heart, and I feel gratitude, and then my head hits a pillow. That's my routine between brushing my teeth, story time, changing, pajamas, etc., for kitties, and then laying down, putting my little one to sleep. So it's like I'm in that place of gratitude. So it's all of a sudden like every time we do that, we're integrating, we're increasing our vibrational frequency, we're connecting more to ourselves, and then all of a sudden you realize that those North Stars aren't actually the outcome that we want. We're just on this journey and process called life, and they're just things that we're deciding to focus on and do. But in fact, joy and happiness is right here in this moment, and we have to flex that muscle. Because for me, it was an arduous task to go to bed every night doing that, and now trying to be in the place where every moment to moment to moment, I could be like, man, like I'm sitting here with Al, I'm sitting here with Chris. This is like a holy, divine experience that I'm grateful for. We're drinking coffee, we're really having fun. This is like beautiful. This is life happening. There's nowhere to go after this. I'm right here in this moment.
Right.
So I believe when we can shift our perception and frequency to be in that place, then all of a sudden we just do a bunch of things that are constantly in flux and flow, moving us in that direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like it's that kind of cliche follow your bliss.
Yeah.
Essentially. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the idea that people will put, let's say, like, I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
And then once they get that thing, they realize, oh shit, like, actually, I'm not happy.
Happiness on the other side of the goal, and guess what? They set a new goal and have now pushed happiness forward again.
Right. So it's always somewhere else. It's never right here.
It's never right here and now. Like I was saying, I don't know where I got this from. I must have read it or someone said it because it's not mine, but it's like, wherever you are, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Words to live by.
Words to live by.
Very nice. So how can people get a hold of you if people want to learn a little bit more? If you're a chiropractic student, they want to learn about your trips, for example.
Cool.
Where can they get a hold of you?
So you can go to vitalisticmasters.com. My next trip's actually in June. I still have a few spots open, June 24th. Mm-hmm. And, it's a full 6-day experiential program. We do serve underserviced communities in the Baja. Essentially, you show up in San Diego, the rest of the trip is taken care of.
Right, these are chiropractic students.
Students, new graduates.
Just show up in San Diego. Just
show up in San Diego, June 24th. Go to vitalisticmasters.com.
Anywhere in San Diego?
Just show up at the airport.
Okay.
Yeah, at the airport, I'll pick you up. And we go through. It is a humanitarian trip. You will be adjusting people during the day. Processes start in the morning. They go till the end of night. It's just, how do you transform as a human being? You go to that trip and 6 days later you've grown and evolved as a human being. I would say it's developing mastery with yourself, and it's a self-mastery trip. So if that floats your boat, that could be something you can check out. You can go to my blog, drsukhi.com. You can check out my book on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. 5-star ratings only.
5-star ratings only. If you're going to put a 4, please don't go.
We used to do that with the podcast.
We used to do the podcast.
Leave us a rating, 5-star only.
Yeah.
We don't accept anything less.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure once again.
It was awesome.
Getting the old band back together.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll do another reunion show in 6 months.
Sure. We'll see. On my next podcast.
Yeah.
After I've moved on.
I'm sure you'll move on from Al as you moved on from me to someone else.
Apparently that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
Should we get tacos? Let's go get tacos. Let's do it.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good one.
Can you sign his book?
Yeah.